You have your opinion, and I have mine, and that's cool. The educated person is the one who's able to understand any position offered without having to change in order to understand that position. All intellectual positions are therefore interesting. Interesting, but not really worth pursuing or even examining particularly carefully. Well, this is not a new phenomenon. In the 19th and 20th century, skepticism became a major religion of its own. There was a spirit of demystification everywhere. People lost the taste for wonder, especially in Europe, and they were darn proud of it. Aldous Huxley, the great English writer and scientist, once said, quote, "There was a time when I gazed upon the stars with great wonder and amazement, but now, late in life, I look up at the heavens in the same way in which I gaze upon the faded wallpaper in a railway station waiting room." You hear the sadness in that? You hear the poverty? 100 years ago, some thought that it was inevitable that everyone would eventually become atheist. But we live in a new era. 30 years ago, the Hubble telescope opened our eyes to the vastness of the universe, something Aldous Huxley never really saw. Even where astronomers thought there was nothing out there, literally nothing but empty space, Hubble trained its eye on that empty space and found thousands, if not millions, more galaxies. And now the new James Webb telescope, the greatest piece of equipment in our lifetime ever, is absolutely blowing astronomers' minds every day right now. Because, only a month ago, it was believed that galaxies took billions of years to form. Turns out galaxies 10 times the size of our own Milky Way formed a mere 250 million years after the Big Bang. That's just like a hiccup after the Big Bang. Unless the telescope, the Webb telescope, finds out that the Big Bang theory was not, in fact, how the universe formed. Everything is shifting now. Even ideas about basic principles of physics are up for grabs, and astronomers are saying, be patient, give us 5 years to sort all this new information out. Well, science and religion have been thought to be enemies for over 400 years. But that may be changing too. Thomas Kuhn has said that truly great advances in knowledge tend to be preceded by certain mythological shifts, paradigm shifts. And these shifts have been coming regularly for a very long time. They come around like the occasional ice age or the thaw that comes after one. Well, Paul in his day presented the Athenians a new vision, a shift in thinking. He told them that he had found the one God who may be the goal of their searching. He tries to relate to them along the lines of what we would call natural theology. He reminds them of the order and beauty apparent in the universe, the fact that every year seasons wind their way around to spring. Every year without fail. In that very thing, he says, there's evidence that a creator exists, one in whom we live and move and have our being. So he speaks not from the ancient classical position of a 3-story universe, a universe where humans live on the second middle story and God is up above. No. He's talking about a God in whom we live and move and have our being, which is way more sophisticated. Think of it this way. Ask a fish, any fish you want, what water is. They may be unable to tell you, and not just because they can't speak. Water is in everything they experience, and it is the most plentiful thing they are made of. And it's similar with God and human beings, according to Paul. The Athenians made a lot to do about their great marble buildings and their statues and the inscriptions on all of them. And when they spoke of the gods, mostly what they did was point to these human-made things. But Paul was attempting to make them look deeper. I'm imagining Paul walking around this church campus and what he might have to say to us and what it might sound like if it were written by Luke, the author of Acts, who wrote today's texts. Then the Apostle Paul stood at the corner of Denny and Hall in Beaverton and said, "Southminster Presbyterians, I see how extremely religious you are in every way. For as I have walked around your church grounds and interior spaces and looked carefully at the objects of your worship, I found among them several things that interest me." Looking around this room, he would have noticed the pulpit, our table, the art around us, the candles formally lit. But I think what might have interested him most would be this assembly of people meeting all together as one for this routine weekly celebration. He would note that at the center of the celebration is not a baptism or communion, just all of us celebrating what it means to be together, all of us different in age and livelihood and giftedness and education, and all the richer for our differences, which we set aside every time we come into this room to explore together again what makes us one. That God in whom we, all of us, live and move and have our being. I'll finish with something Rachel Carson said a long time ago. She's the author of Silent Spring. She said, quote, "I like to remember the distinguished Swedish oceanographer Otto Peterson, who died a few years ago at the age of 93, in full possession of his keen mental powers. His son, also world famous in oceanography, has related how intensely his father enjoyed every new experience, every new discovery concerning the world about him. He was an incurable romantic," the son said, "intensely in love with life and with the mysteries of the cosmos. And when he realized he had not much longer to enjoy the earthly scene, Otto Peterson said to his son, quote, 'What will sustain me in my last moments is an infinite curiosity as to what will come next.'" Amen.